All right, welcome to the Academy, Trusted House Painter Academy podcast. I'm your host today. My name is Paul Stein. And in today's show, we've got a pretty interesting show because we're going to be talking about basically every small painting business's worst nightmare. And that's being injured, whether you're on the job site or whether you're on a Saturday weekend trip, kayaking or canoeing or rollerblading or hunting with your friends, and you get injured. The question is what are you going to do when the money stops flowing and when you can't run your business? It's a nightmare of a question to ask. I don't like to think about it, but it revolves in all of our minds, all of us painter-preneurs worldwide, when we go out on a daily basis. And on our show today, we've got our co-host Clay Rock. Clay, how are you doing?
Good.
What's going on with your teeth there, Clay?
I got my jaw wired shut because I fractured my jaw after wisdom tooth surgery.
So you had to deal with this, basically.
I had no choice. Yep.
And
I can't eat solid foods. I'm on a smoothie-based diet, and a lot of pain for anyone who's ever had braces. Once you get your jaw wired, it really sort of clenches down on everything. So I dealt with a lot of pain for a week. Been basically told by the doctor that I need to be laying in bed, relaxing. I've got a crack in my jaw right here, so not supposed to be doing any heavy lifting or anything. So how do you do painting with this?
So have you been working throughout this time here, or what?
Yep. I basically took a day off and was back on job sites the next day, helping out guys, doing whatever I needed to do in order to make sure the projects were moving along.
What a nightmare. That's crazy. Well, in today's show, basically what we're going to discuss is what I said is every painter's worst nightmare, getting injured or sick and not being able to run your painting business. So when you do get injured or sick, what is your plan? And Clay, I'm not too sure if you had a plan or not, but in today's video, our special guest is Janelle Anderson, and you'll learn how to maintain a little bit of peace of mind and continue getting paid while you're sick or unable to do your job. So Janelle, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Yay, thank you. I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day here.
Yeah, same here.
So I guess, Clay, you might want to start this is what would you do different if you knew now what you knew before you had your wisdom teeth taken out?
Well, I would have listened a little more closely to Janelle's sales pitches before, because I've known Janelle before and known her services, and as she's going to discuss, she could have helped me in this scenario, and it would have alleviated a lot of my financial strain because my income is tied to actions. So when I can't act, where do I get income from? Janelle's going to talk about how to help that. Really, my plan is all in hindsight now, because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't protected to sort of face time down from my projects. I've been really lucky with my crew in that I was able to rely on my guys to push forward projects. So I wasn't totally strapped, but if this was a year, 2, 3 years ago, when I decided to just sort of run solo, then what would I have done? How am I going to support my family? So really, I think the best plan for me is, or anybody else there, is to do as I say and not as I do.
Yeah,
I was not prepared. But,
take his advice. He's not using it. Welcome to the show, Janelle. How are you today?
Yeah, Janelle, how could you have helped me? How can you help other people? Let's jump right into that.
Yeah, first and foremost, Janelle, what do you do exactly? What do you do that's so different, and how can you help small painting businesses, avoid these problems that Clay's dealing with?
Yeah, exactly. Well, first off, I just want to say, Clay, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. That is actually why I'm so passionate about what I do, because as healthy people, we don't think about when we're sick. We don't picture ourselves being there. We don't want to imagine ourselves being there. So that's I think one of the biggest hurdles that people, when they want to learn about what I'm doing, have to overcome and have a hard time overcoming, is that they don't ever picture themselves being in that situation, right? So What I do exactly is I've been with a company that's been around for 100 years, but nobody knows that we have existed because we've been in mainly in farming communities, and we used to market in the farming communities and by door knocking. But no one knocks on anybody's door, right? Like, what happens now if someone to come and knock on your guys' door? Doesn't work the same way anymore, right? Especially like with COVID and stuff like that. I live in a condo. I'd be like, how did you get into the building? So now we have to do things that the company has never really seen. And so now this is kind of the whole point of it, is that now we're educating people on a company that they've never heard of before in situations where they don't picture themselves ever being. So that's kind of the uniqueness of it for sure.
And I guess what's the commonality that you're finding with small business owners like Clay and myself? Like, what is the common theme that you find that when they show up to your door finally after something has happened? What's the common theme that you get when you're talking to small business owners?
So the common theme is, number one, is that they don't have any coverage put in place. That is the number one thing that when I sit down with people, especially if they do own a company and they have employees and stuff, they're the ones that usually aren't covered. And so that's usually what we go through. And then also sometimes in situations like Clay is right now, where something has happened to them and they have been sick or injured and they haven't been able to work. And so then that's financially help, like, not being a benefit for them at all.
So I guess it's usually, it's a little bit too late. It's not until they actually feel the pain that they come to you. And so basically, it's not life insurance. You call it living benefits. Now, maybe you can explain to us what exactly the difference is between like life insurance, work insurance, and living benefits, and where it applies and where it doesn't. If you could help us understand that.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. So life insurance is amazing if you own your home, if you have dependent children, if you want to leave something for your family when you pass away. So life insurance is great because if you pass away, then the money gets left to your beneficiaries. It's gifted to them for them to do what they want. One, we don't actually know if life insurance pays our families out because we're not here. And two, unfortunately, we have to pass away for it to pay out to our beneficiaries. With what we do, we actually pay in the instance where you become hurt or sick and you don't pass away. So for example, Clay, obviously he's alive and well to a certain degree right now, and that's where that would really come into place, because life insurance wouldn't pay him out a single cent because he survives. Also, with Clay's situation, because he didn't get hurt at work, there was no WCB claim. So WCB, workers' compensation benefits, is if you get injured at the job site, but what happens if you are doing something else outside of work and then you get injured? So that's where WCB really comes into place. And so that's where we really supplement our coverage. And a lot of people like to call it gap insurance because we really fill in the gaps for those types of scenarios. A lot of the time, people are also used to long-term disability. Long-term disability is also amazing. However, it doesn't kick in sometimes for 90 days. So if you are self-employed, or sometimes people are living to paycheck to paycheck, or living every second paycheck to paycheck, and something happens, you get hurt or sick, what happens from the very first day that you become injured or sick? So that's where we really come into place, because we cover right from the very first day from any accident or illness.
Interesting. So what I hear from you is that it's not life insurance, it's living benefits.
Yeah.
And it's different because I can get injured on the weekend and I'm still covered, so it doesn't have anything to do with work. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. It's on and off work instances. So it's really amazing for people that do have high risk occupations like painting, roofers, anything kind of in construction or things like that. Because if they hurt themselves outside of the work or on the weekends doing side jobs, then we can still cover them. Or if they're doing any type of sports, we cover for that as well, which WCB obviously does not. It's only at work.
So I guess the question I have for you is, I go hunting on the weekend with my buddies and I turn around and the guy shoots me in the arm and I'm done and I'm out for like 4 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Would that be covered?
Yeah, absolutely. So we cover for stuff that a lot of companies don't. We cover for a lot of high risk activities. So we cover for stuff like hunting, fishing, basically any recreational sport or activity is what we cover for.
So I'm skateboarding with my son and I fall and I break my wrist and I can't go paint. Yeah. And I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. And also the fact that you mentioned that you have a son is amazing. Well, I don't know, that could just be a story, but we do have amazing family plans, a family can get massive discounts with their benefits. So a lot of families are really taking advantage of this, because also one thing that people don't think about is insuring their kids. And a lot of the time they think, hey, I'm the breadwinner, I want to insure myself, or I want to insure my wife or my partner. But if your child is sick or injured and in the hospital, you're taking time off work to be with them. So that's why we also implement for the kids as well, so that nobody has to struggle financially if that were to ever happen to them.
And in Clay's situation, where he had his wisdom teeth taken out, and then he fractured his jaw, and then he had to get his mouth wired shut for 6 weeks. Is that right, Clay?
Yep.
Would Clay get a benefit from that? Would he get paid out for that?
Yeah, it really just varies. Our plans are very based on your needs. So it's not whatever, this is so funny, but I always say, whatever you know about regular insurance, throw it out the window, because it's completely different. So we have very customizable plans. You can pick and choose the level that you would like to go to, but essentially, for one of our plans on the Cadillac benefit, the highest benefit for wisdom teeth, you could potentially get a payout of $4,200. And then same with fractures, there's also a payout for $4,200. So if Clay were to opt into the plan at the maximum benefit, altogether for his 2 injuries could have been looking at over $8,000.
$8,000 for that. How does that feel, Clay?
So, Clay, would that have helped you with your time you needed to heal?
Sorry, say that again. I'm still like
starstruck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a nice option to have, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so could Clay actually work and collect that benefit, or is he not allowed to work while he's collecting that benefit?
Yeah, you have to take the time off of work.
You have to take the time off of work.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that basically means like anywhere. And before the show, we were talking about you have coverage that it covers Canada and United States. Now, for the benefit of the viewers in America that are watching the show, your business is based out of Canada here, but maybe go into a little bit more about the overarching business that you belong to, where they come from, and where they operate in the States, and how they can help those painters as well.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. The company that I work with is called Combine Insurance. And so Combine has actually been around since 1922. We came to Canada in 1956, specifically talking about in Manitoba and the farming communities. But our coverage up here in Canada is for Canada and the United States. So if you do happen to go to the States, we will cover you while you're down there. We actually had a little boy. They went on a family vacation to the States, and he was running around the pool, and he fell down and he smacked his head on the pool deck, and he ended up needing stitches, and his family was able to receive $3,300. And that was amazing for them, because their time in the hospital in the US, they got charged $800. So this not only helped offset the cost of their hospital bill, but it also put some more money in their pocket for their vacation and stuff like that. But we do cover for Canada and the United States. We always recommend getting travel insurance, because the States is a little bit wild down there, but it does cover that. But for the people that are specifically residing in the US, we do have the coverage down there as well. I don't know specifically the details of the plans, because I only work with the Canadian side, but they do offer it down there for sure.
And so I guess why don't people know about this? Like, as a painter-preneur, as a small business owner, I've never really been told about this benefit. And I always thought that you either have workers insurance or you don't, and you have life insurance or house insurance. Yeah. Why don't many people know about this really cool benefit that really protects you in the case that you get injured?
A lot of the time people don't know about it because, as I said earlier, the company doesn't do any advertising or marketing. So we don't put any money into advertising and stuff like that. Are you guys familiar with the company Geico that like has that little lizard that does the car insurance and stuff like that?
Yeah.
The reason why we know that company is because they spend billions of dollars a year on advertising, whereas we don't spend a single cent. So we have a reserve for policyholder benefits, and our bank account is filled with billions of dollars in order to pay out our clients, because we'd rather just put the money back into our clients' pockets. So that leading us to being a company that's been around for 100 years, but we don't do any advertising. So that's why. So it's all word of mouth. And there hasn't been really anybody in Vancouver or on Vancouver Island that's really been doing this up until we kind of came here a few years ago. So that's why a lot of people haven't heard about it, unfortunately. But that's the whole purpose of this, right? Is just to educate people, to let them know that we're here for sure.
Well, yeah, the biggest scare, for most small painting business owners is, as I said in the intro, is what happens when you get sick.
Right.
What happens when those accidents happen? I remember a few years ago I was chopping wood with a friend, and I had my axe stuck in the wood, and so I grabbed a mole, a big fat 10-pound mole, and I sledgehammered it down, and it chipped the metal on metal, and this little piece came driving up, and it wedged into my arm, and I had to go get stitches, and I was out for a week, and
Oh, shoot.
and like I didn't get paid. So I guess at the end of the day, let's talk between you, me, Clay, and the fence post. What are the costs here, daily costs for having such insurance so that we're protected?
Yeah, exactly. So our plans, the minimum plan starts at $14 a month, and we customize plans with everybody's budget. So it's hard to specifically say what they do cost for everybody because they're really different. Depends on how many people are in your family or what age you are or what coverage that you want. But we always just say the plans start at $14 a month, and then we can customize it based on your needs and your budget.
So really, that's like 50 cents a day. It's like a third of a cup of coffee, not even like a quarter of a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
So I guess, what is the biggest confrontation or objection that you face from small business owners when they hear this? Or is there any objection when you get this? When you get questions?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I want to say that one of the biggest objections is that people say that they'll never become hurt or sick. And that's totally fair because I totally understand how they feel, because when I started this, I felt the same way, because I've never been hurt or sick before either. Same with my family, no cancer ones in there, no strokes, no heart attacks, anything like that. But what really pushed me into this was a few years ago, my mom was really sick with cancer. And when she was sick, she had some benefits through work, thankfully, but it was only at 50% of her income. So instead of being used to $4,000 a month, let's just say, is reduced down to $2,000. So $2,000 is better than nothing. However, when all your bills are based around that $4,000, like your mortgage or your rent or your car payments, to have that cut in half was a huge financial shock for our family. My dad also, on the other hand, is in the trades and no benefits whatsoever. So when my mom got sick, I was like, well, I'm kind of thankful that it's you, unfortunately, than dad, because financially, I'm not sure what they would have done. So when I learned about this, that was why I became super passionate about it, because I was like, there can't just be my family that's kind of going through that. And I don't know if you guys know what the statistic is in Canada of people living paycheck to paycheck, but it's 53%. So if that's the statistic in Canada, imagine the people that become hurt or sick and can't work for a week. That's a huge financial shock for their whole situation. So one of the biggest objections is that they'll never get hurt or sick. But once they see the plans, that's when they're kind of like, okay, I can afford this. And now I want to implement it in my life for sure.
So I guess, hearing this, Clay, what would you have done differently if you knew about this before you had your wisdom teeth taken out and then your jaw fractured? What would you have done differently, I guess?
Well, I think I need to review some of those plans that Janelle's talking about for sure. I think hearing more about the children as well. I've got a 3-year-old son and I've got another baby on the way. And I'm starting to become a little more injury prone in my old age. So I feel like every year I get injured in a soccer game, and it sounds like this is specifically designed for me. So Janelle, let's set up a chat and talk soon.
Sure.
Because $14 a day to start, like, geez, I'm spending more than that on smoothies just trying to get through the day.
Yeah.
Correction, that's $14 a month.
Yeah, $14 a
Oh,
month. Yeah.
well, then I can afford it. For sure.
So I guess the dumb question is, but why should painters want to do this? Why should painters want this kind of insurance for them? Why would it be beneficial for them? Just for the very fact that they get insurance? Or is there anything deeper involved with, going with a service that protects them in and off the job site?
Sure. Yeah. So like, for example, if they become hurt or sick, I guess the question is, would you rather be off work with no income coming in, or would you rather be off work with an income of like $8,000 that we could gift to you? Potentially, it depends on your injury and illness. And so a lot of the times with painters, Their high risk is, obviously ladders, but a lot of the time it's use of the same type of muscle. So carpal tunnel is really massive, tendonitis, shoulderitis, and those things are really difficult for workers' compensation to pay for, because sometimes it's hard for them to say, well, you specifically got this type of diagnosis at the job site, because you can get carpal tunnel from doing anything, right? It's just from the same use over and over again. So, and they also have a really difficult time paying out their claims, where our claim to fame is that we pay our claims out. So we paid out 28,000 claims last year, and we paid out over 2.5 million every single day to our clients. And so that's one thing that I always say about it, is that no matter what, we will do our best to guarantee that your claim will get paid out depending on the injury or illness. But that would be one of the reasons why, is because even if you aren't super accident prone, obviously accidents happen. That's why they're called an accident. We can't control that. But another thing also would be something like for carpal tunnel or tendonitis, things that we can't control, and those can be life-changing incidences and diagnoses for people.
Interesting. Well, we've got a question from the chat, and one of the questions is this an online? Let me read it here. Can you buy your services online, or do they have to come into office? So I guess, yeah, that's the question. Is this, can someone just purchase it online, or do they have to connect with you or go to the office and fill out forms? Or
yeah, so they would have to connect with me, but it's all done online. It's all virtual. So since COVID, this was kind of like the blessing of COVID. The company has now opened up, and we're able to service people all across Canada, which has been amazing. Whereas before we would have had to meet in person, but now I have my license in almost every province. And so it's pretty amazing to help people Canada wide. So you don't necessarily have to meet with me in person, or I don't have to come to the office, but it's just online. It's a very quick and easy process for sure.
And is it monthly kind of insurance, or is it annual? Like, is it you have to buy the whole year, or can you go month to month?
You can go month to month, or you can go annually, up to you.
That is good to know.
Mm-hmm.
No other questions there.
Perfect.
Clay, do you have any questions?
I did have one, and it's slipped my mind. Can you share a little bit more about the kids? Because that's going to be relevant to me as well, and hopefully for some people out there, it is relevant to them as well. Because I don't hear a lot about insurance where you're sort of getting coverage for people's kids. So how would that work?
Yep. So that's a really great question. And so that's also why, like, a lot of people are, when they hear about the kids, they're like, this is amazing. And that's exactly why they get their families involved and share this with their friends and families that specifically have kids, because no one thinks about this. And so kids can get paid the exact same way that adults can. So we had a 10-year-old boy. He went snowboarding, broke his thumb. Got $4,200, and when his thumb was healed, he bought a PlayStation. So he was really happy and thankful about that. But they can claim the exact same way, because no one ever wants to imagine their kids becoming sick or hurt. But as I said before, if they do, you're taking that time off of work to be with them 24/7, probably more time that we would take off than our own self, right? So that's why we really want to help people in that type of financial situation, so that no families have to really think about it in that time.
Yeah, it's a perfect point, because for me, when I was injured and when this happened, I just tough it out. I'm like,
right.
All right, well, I'll deal with it and I'll get through it, but I'm not going to tell my kid to do that. I need
Yeah.
to support him. So yeah, it is pulling me from work and stuff. So that's amazing. We should definitely chat about that a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to.
I think a big misconception with insurance, at least in my world, in my view, is that there's a lot of exemptions or limitations. And, I'll do something and they'll be like, oh, your shoes were untied, so therefore you don't get it. So I guess the question that I have for you, Janelle, is, what are the exemptions? What are the limitations of the services you offer? Or literally, are there none?
Yeah, there are obviously some. We don't, I won't go through all of them, but just some of the main ones, like obviously no drinking and driving, like war of active war, like self-inflicted injury, that type of stuff. It is very minimal, the exclusion, especially on the accident side compared to something else. So a really great example is someone that likes to scuba dive and skydive. If you go to apply for life insurance, they will deny you because those are really high risk activities. But with us, we welcome those activities for people. So that's why in the presentation it says any recreational sport or activity.
Well, I think this is a great service, especially for painters, because the painting industry is, like as you said earlier, it's very physically demanding. Most painters are active and athletic in a way,
Yeah.
and it's not just painting that they do. They do go bike riding, they go do skydiving, they go do other activities outside of their life, and they got to be careful. Like I play baseball, and one time I caught the ball and it stubbed my two fingers, and I couldn't do anything with these two fingers for like a week because they're like fat kid fingers, and I couldn't do anything. So if I was on this plan, I probably would have dipped in. Would it count for like a weekend baseball game?
Yeah, so it's not specific to like the weekend or the baseball. It's kind of just the injury and what plan you have. So if it's either a sprain or a fracture, then yes, just of course we do our best to cover those things for sure. It's pretty funny because we've got a lot of like kind of small injury claims like that, like a fractured finger or a broken arm or stuff like that. But then we do actually have a lot of really big claims that have been completely life-changing, and it's kind of the major reason why I got involved was because of the major claims. And so I'll tell you guys this one. I have a kind of a question, but have you guys ever been on a trampoline or to one of those trampoline places and you were there and you're kind of like, this is a little bit dangerous? So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this story, but there was a young man that actually broke his neck at the trampoline center. And it's crazy because he actually was a painter. So his employer opted into paying for the coverage for each of the guys. They got on a plan too. And so a couple weeks later, the young painter jumped into the ball pit at the trampoline center and he hit his head on the cement underneath the ball pit and he broke his neck. Luckily, though, like I said before, his employer set him up with our coverage and he received over $45,000. And so he was able to use the money for the rehab and accessories and stuff like that. And so could you imagine that happening to someone that you know close to you or to yourself? Like, that's crazy, right? And so we don't ever want those situations to happen. But in case they do, we want to make sure that families don't have to worry about their finances like that. So yes, we do pay for stuff like bruised fingers and stuff, but the major reason why we're here is for situations like that. And even Clay, like not being able to open his mouth, like that's life-changing for some people, and you're very lucky that your crew is guiding you through that. But what would happen if it was an employee of yours? They don't have that crew to kind of guide them through and help them with the jobs, right? So that's where we really want to step in to make sure that we're helping people in those types of situations.
Yeah, that's what you just said there, is like even extending it to your employees. That's a great benefit in today's labor shortage and labor tough times that we're having. I think there's always that competitive advantage of why should I go with you versus that person? Because coming from an employer standpoint, if you can offer this kind of incentive to your employees, then I think that would also help benefit you in recruiting and hiring painters as well.
Yeah.
Where can people find more information? Like, I guess, so we're in Canada right now. We're broadcasting in Canada, and you service Canada. So for the Canadians watching this, where can Canadians find out more information? How can they contact you to get more information about this?
Sure. Yeah. You can contact me by email. I don't know if you guys want to put it in the chat there, but I will. My email is Janelle. So just my first name. So JANELLE at livingbenefitsvi.com. Feel free to email me. My number is also in there, but my number is 250-732-0986. I'm more than happy to answer any questions or and anything like that. And
then I guess your website is livingbenefitsvi.com?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, and I guess for the Americans watching, painters in the US, how could they reach out to their local agents, or where can they go to kind of get more information so that they can get coverage in their jurisdiction?
Yeah, so you can definitely go to the Combine website. It's just www.combineinsurance.com. And on there, you can click if you're from the US and you can request to get an agent to come and speak to you. Again, I'm not sure specifically of what their packages do cover, but they do kind of do the similar thing as that what we do. Okay, so I guess if you had 30 seconds to say to every painter out there, or every small business owner, every roofer, every plumber, if you could have that one sales pitch to them, what would you say to them?
what would you say to them that would entice them to think about what they have done in order to plan for a case of injury or sickness?
Sure. So I would just say, could you imagine yourself in this situation where you are unable to work for a week, up to 4 weeks, up to 8 weeks? And if you were in that type of situation, would you still have an income coming in? If no, this is definitely something to consider. If you would have an income coming in, would it be your full paycheck? Again, if the answer is no, something to consider, because it's always better to have insurance 10 years too early than 1 second too late.
Isn't that right, Clay?
Oh yeah.
And so what are you going to do now, Clay? Now that you've
over the years.
Walked through this experience, Clay, what do you think is your first step after this?
Janelle and I will be sitting down for a coffee soon, and chatting about what those different packages look like. Yeah, and I've got about a month until baby number 2 on the way, and I've got 2 weeks until these come off, and I want to get back on the soccer pitch as soon as I can, running around with my buddies playing soccer. So
Yeah.
life's going to be starting to happen real quick, and you never know when something's going to come up. So time to get taken care of, time to get protected for me. And I think anyone else out there, as Janelle just said, better 10 years early than 1 second too. Unless
Too
Janelle,
late.
you want to write me a check for $4,200.
Yeah, because as painters, it's funny because we're so busy all the time. We don't really think about the little peripheral things that we don't see, right?
Right.
And these accidents do happen, whether on the job site. I guess another question I have, just off the top of my head, if it is a workplace accident and I am covered through WCB, does it also apply to you, or is that no longer covered?
Yeah, we pay 100% on top of WCB. So that's also like,
Wow.
yeah, it's really amazing for employers and employees. And it's great that you said that before, that it is more of an incentive for them, because I deal a lot with different types of businesses, like roofing businesses and moving businesses and painting ones and things like that. And they really do see the value, because not only do they get to claim through WCB, they get to claim through us, which means that sometimes they're receiving a full paycheck. And also it really gives them the time that they need to recover. And then also the employer can feel like he made a difference in their lives. Like that employer that put that policy on that 19-year-old kid that broke his neck, his family received $45,000. And without that, what would they have done? They had to redo their house and things like that. So even such a small policy can make such a huge difference in people's lives. So that's why the employers really see the benefit for sure, because like group benefits and stuff like that are amazing. But if you fall down and break your arm, you know, your dental coverage isn't going to help you pay for that. So that's where we really come into place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. And it's good that it does cover dental things like Clay's wisdom teeth, right?
Yeah, it covers some of them. Depends on the situation for sure. We don't specifically cover like crowns or braces or stuff like that, but we have covered wisdom teeth in the past, and we do cover fractures for sure.
Well, that's great. I really appreciate you being on the show and talking to us today about, you know, how we can protect ourselves, because as small business owners, we often don't protect ourselves, and there is a liability, there is a risk being an entrepreneur. And that is, are you covered? Like, you're not working for the government, you're not working for a big institution that gives you all of these benefits that you don't need to worry about. So it has slipped my mind in the past. I'd love to chat with you too as well in the future.
Sure.
And I just appreciate you coming on the call here and explaining what you do and why it's so beneficial for painters to have such insurances, so that when accidents do happen, whether you're on the job or off the job, you're covered and you can actually survive. Now, you know, who's going to run your company? Not too sure, but at least you're paying your bills and your kids are being fed, and you can kind of recover while that's there. And so I know that's a worry for a lot of small business owners. So I really appreciate you coming on the call today, discussing it. Where can people find more information about you again?
Yeah, so you can find it on the website that we provide is www.livingbenefitsvi.com. You can also send me an email at Janelle, JANELLE at livingbenefitsvi.com, or you can also give me a call at 1-250-732-0986.
Okay, well, that's good. We'll put up your phone number there. And Clay, any final thoughts here as we wrap up this show here?
just some advice for anybody who's out there. Just like everybody else, when you're young, you feel invincible. When you get injured, you feel like you can tough it out. But approaching the injury and financially taking care of yourself throughout the injury are two entirely different things. So think about what that plan is for yourself, and make sure that you're either putting money away or giving money to someone like Janelle, who is going to support you and help you out through that. Because when those accidents happen, that's the first thing that's going to pop onto your mind is, what do I do about money for next week, for next month?
That's good advice. That's really good advice. Well, thanks so much, Janelle. I really appreciate you being on the call here. I'd love to have you on the call again, maybe talking about a specific plan or some kind of promotion that you guys got going on. And to any painter that's watching this right now, you can send us if you've got any questions about the services Janelle provides or anything else to do with business or painting, you can contact us at support@trustedhousepainter.com. We're always available for you there. Or you can just go to trustedhousepainter.com. You can register for your free membership there. You can join Trusted House Painter. It's a brand new online platform dedicated to broadcasting, connecting homeowners to painters, professional painters. So thanks again, Janelle, for being on the show. And thanks to Clay for showing up with your wired mouth and doing what you're doing and plugging through like a real trooper does. And we'll definitely have you on the show again, Janelle. Thanks again for showing up.
Yeah, thanks so much, you guys. Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a safe and great day.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And everybody watching, have a safe day and get your insurance because you never know when it's going to happen, right?
Thanks, you guys.
Okay. See you later. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Yep.